Today, Operation Antispruik in Far North Queensland. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics, who update his post carrying finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. Well, another expedition today, this time to Far North Queensland to look at property price falls, courtesy of the research from Cookie Boy, and also interfacing that with my own data from my core market models. So today we're going to look at the northern part of Queensland, and from Douglas at the top down to Hinchinbrook down at the bottom. And it's worth saying, of course, that not all postcodes have high population densities, so in some cases the information will maybe less statistically relevant than sometimes, but on the other hand it also does make quite interesting viewing. Because of course the old spruiking is that everything's still going up in Queensland, where in fact I don't think that's the case anymore, and in certain areas of Far North Queensland indeed prices are getting quite weak. Now, as always, I'll be using data from my core market model, and that information is coming from our surveys and other sources of information too. And it's also worth saying, I think, that I've made some further modifications to the way the model works. Specifically, I've updated the scenarios to take account of the latest data. For example, the Federal Reserve lifting their cash rate by 0.75% today, and an extended expectation that I have now that the Reserve Bank will have to follow suit. Plus, I've also done some further calculations relating to income, particularly because the census data quotes gross household income, whereas I think the one we should be using is net disposable income. So I've changed the model so that it actually reports that in the information I'm going to show today. So let's get started with postcode 4849. And this particular postcode is down the bottom of Far North Queensland, around Hinchinbrook. So this is a property. It was listed 40 days ago. It's a house. It's on a big plot, and it's pretty small. But the point to make here is that it was originally on at $789,000. Now it's on $649,000. And I would underscore that a lot of regional properties and rural properties, of course, are hard to value independently because, statistically speaking, they are much less representative compared with, for example, large numbers of properties in a small geographic area. Nevertheless, we can look at 4849. As I said, it's Hinchinbrook up in the Cardwell area of Queensland, and it's sort of associated with Innisfail and the Castlereagh coast, and of course rolls out towards Cairns at the SA4 level. Now, if you look at the data set, just 640 households in this whole area, and very few are borrowing, just 15% or 102 people borrowing at the moment. Most people own their properties outright. There are also some rating, about 38%. Interestingly, those who are borrowing are finding the cash flow pressures quite significant, as are some renters. And if you look at the scenarios over the next 3 years, we have our three base case scenarios: best, base, worst. The best case assumes that interest rates don't go up too far and the economy doesn't tank too far. I have to say that's less likely now. The base case is that interest rates follow the Federal Reserve up and stay up through the course of next year. The worst case scenario is not only do we get that stagflationary effect, but also we have more disruption from the economic climate internationally, with China and Europe being problematic and the US going into recession. So on that basis, best case scenario is pretty much flat over the next 3 years. The base case, which I think is my most likely scenario, is a fall of just over 25%. The worst case is a potential fall of more than 45%. Looking at the property profiles from the census, there's 70% are houses, 9% are units, and 19% are others. That would include commercial related residential property, perhaps on farms, as well as over shops. Population ratio is quite low, 1.45%, but interestingly in the census, 24.5% of the properties reported were vacant, which is extremely high. Now, looking at the data relating to taxable income from the ATO, the average individual's taxable income is $61,000. The average taxable income per household, according to the census, is $44,000. Looking at property investments, the gross investment returns are around 4.3%. Net investment returns on average are underwater. And finally, looking at disposable monthly income, well, a typical household is sitting on just over $3,000 a month. And for those borrowing, they're typically paying about 49% of their disposable income on the mortgage, about $1,560. For those renting, they're paying on average 39.8% of their income at $1,256. So now let's look at another postcode, this time 4852. And this is in and around Dunk and includes Wongalin Beach. This is a house on 809 squares, 4 beds, 3 baths, 4 car, listed 164 days ago on the 9th of April 2022. On the 12th of April, it was on at $1.2 million, and now its offers over $1.1 million on the 13th of July, and it's still on the market. Now, if we look at this particular postcode, 1,695 households, of which 40% own their properties outright, 27% are borrowing, and 31% are renting. Mortgage stress is extremely high, and rental stress is also pretty high. So the overall financial stress metric for this postcode is quite high. Looking at our scenarios, the best case is a fall of 3% over the next 3 years. The base case is a fall of 29%. The worst case is a fall of 48%. And according to the property profiles, 81% are houses in this area, 8% are units, and 10% are other types of residential property. Population ratio is 1.76, and here 21.2% or 430 properties were reported as vacant on census night. The average taxable income for an individual is around $68,500. The average household income is about $64,692 according to the census. Looking at investment returns, gross investment returns are 4.9% in this area. Net investment returns about 1.2%. And looking at the disposable monthly income, typical household is about $4,200 a month. And for those borrowing, the mortgage repayment is about 39.7% of disposable income at $1,680. And the average rent is costing 35.3% of household income at $1,495. Now we look at another property in the same postcode, and this is a house on 8,140 square metres with 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, 5 cars, listed 43 days ago on the 9th of August. And on the 16th of August, it was showing at $560,000. Now, on the 16th of September, it's down to $520,000. And here's another one in the same postcode, 4852. Listed the 27th of June. It's a house, 861 squares, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 3 cars. Listed on the 13th of July at $595,000. Now on the 10th of September, down to $515,000. Now we'll go to postcode 4854. This is still part of Innisfail and the Castlereagh coast. Now this was listed a long time ago. I actually don't believe that data actually, but it's obviously a property on considerable acreage. Listed on the 24th of May 2022 for $749,000. Now it's a new price, negotiable, on the 3rd of September for $699,000. We look at that particular postcode, 4854, 2,133 households there, 40% own outright, 30% are borrowing, 28% are renting. The stress levels are very high for those borrowing, and rental stress is also quite high. And from a scenario perspective, the best case would be pretty much flat over the next 3 years. The base case is a fall of 25%, a worst case for houses down 44% over the next 3 years. Looking at the property profiles, 89% are houses, 6% are units, and 4.5% are other types of residential property. The population ratio is 2.12, which is a bit higher than some of the other ones we looked at. On census night, 14.1% were vacant, 331 properties. Looking at the gross investment returns, typically 4.5%, net investment returns 0.9%. The average taxable income from the ATO, $61,000. The average household income, $67,300 based on the census. And looking at the disposable monthly income, it's around $4,300, with 35.9% typically going on the mortgage at $1,560 and 28.7% going on the rent at $1,245. Now we'll go to postcode 4861. And this is, again, in Far North Queensland. It's a house on 503 squares with 5 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms and 2 cars. It was on $599,000 on the 31st of March 2021. It's now showing $470,000, having been reduced to $569,000 on the 24th of August 2021. And if we look at 4861, not many households in this particular postcode, but 30% are owning outright, 33% are borrowing, and 29% are renting. The mortgage stress is, well, not too bad. No rental stress that we can see. And looking at the scenarios, this has some upside, perhaps 14% over the next 3 years for the best case scenario. The base case is a fall of 10% and the worst case is a fall of 30%. And looking at the property profiles, 93% are houses and 6.8% are others, including, of course, commercial related residential property. Population ratio is about 2. And on census night, 13.5% of properties, or 92, were reported vacant. The average taxable income is around $66,700. The average household income from the census at $58,812. And from an investment perspective, gross investment returns about 3.8%, net investment returns minus 2.2%. And looking at the disposable monthly income, typical household around $3,640 a month. And a typical borrower is paying around 38.5% of their income, or $1,404 a month, whereas the average rental is 31.4% at $1,147. We'll look at another property in the same postcode. This is a house on 7,000 square metres, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms and 10 cars, listed 436 days ago on the 12th of July 2021. On the 28th of August 2021, it was offers over $750,000 and now it's $699,000 on the 28th of November 2021. So it's just sitting there by the look of it. Now we'll go to postcode 4869. And this is Edmonton. It's a house on 1,200 squares, 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms and 2 cars. Listed 106 days ago on the 7th of June 2022. On the 16th of July, it was on at $899,000. On the 20th of August, it was reduced to offers over $799,000. And looking at this particular postcode, there's nearly 7,000 households in the postcode. 17% own outright, 49.8% are borrowing, and 32.9% are renting. Mortgage stress is at 22%, rental stress is at 38%. So there are some pressures, but it's not that dramatic relative to some others that we've seen. From a scenario perspective, the best case scenario for houses is 9% up over the next 3 years, the base case a fall of 15% over 3 years, and the worst case a fall of 33%. Looking at the property profiles from the census, 93% are houses, 5% are units, and just 1.8% are other forms of accommodation. Population ratio typically 2.71% and 5.8%, or 401 properties, were vacant on census night. Gross investment return is around 4.4%, net investment return 1.3%. The average taxable income is around $66,900. The average household income is around $90,000. And the monthly disposable income is $5,917 on average, with 30.8% going to pay the mortgage at $1,820, or 30.7% going to pay the rent at $1,819. Now here's another property in the same postcode. This has a gross rental yield of 2.71%, so below the average. Listed 154 days ago on the 19th of April 2022. It's a house, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 5 cars on 1,645 squares. And on the 17th of July, it was on at $1,080,000. Now on the 20th of September, it's reduced to offers over $990,000. Now we'll go to postcode 4870. This particular one, Cairns North, is a house listed on the 2nd of June 2022, 110 days ago. It's 4 bedrooms, 1 bath, 4 garage or car, and 490 square metres. Listed on the 13th of July for $500,000. Now on the 4th of September, listed for $460,000. Looking at the postcode, 28,700 people living in the area, 23% own outright, 35% are borrowing and 41% are renting. Mortgage stress is at 37%, rental stress is at 25%, so not too bad relative to others. But nevertheless, looking at the price movements, houses up 8.6% over 3 years, best case. Base case a fall of 16%, the worst case a fall of 34%. Looking at the property profiles from the census, 59% were houses, more than 16,000, 25% were units, and 15% were other types of residential accommodation, including over shops, as well as agricultural and other types of commercial premises. The ratio was 2.11%, and there were 10.7% of properties vacant on census night, which is more than 3,240. Gross investment returns 4.4% on average, net investment returns 0.7%. Looking at the net disposable income, typically just over $5,000 a month, and the average mortgage repayment is $1,920, which typically is around 37% of monthly disposable income. Rents around 29.9% of disposable income at $1,544. Now we'll look at another one in 4870. This is Parramatta Park. It's a house on 708 squares with 10 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, 4 cars, listed 292 days ago on the 3rd of December 2021. Now, on the 2nd of March 2022, it was at $1.25 million. Now it's $1.19 million. And that's based on the 27th of July 2022. Another one in the same postcode. This one is a house on 700 squares, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 3 cars, listed 174 days ago on the 31st of March 2022. On the 3rd of April, it was buyers over $799,000. On the 17th of May, it's now down to $749,000, and it's still on. Another one in the same postcode, listed 215 days ago on the 18th of February 2022. It's a house, 715 squares, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 6 cars. On the 15th of March, it was on at around 500s. Now it's 440 to 460,000. Another one again in the same postcode, listed 90 days ago on the 23rd of June. It's a house, 800 squares, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, 2 cars, gross rental yield of 5.9%. And on the 14th of July, it was on at $435,000. On the 8th of September, it was reduced to $398,000. And another one in the same postcode, listed 100 days ago on the 13th of June. It's a house, 841 squares, 5 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 2 cars. On the 3rd of September, it was $600,000 negotiable. On the 17th of September, $550,000. And another one in the same postcode, 288 days ago, it was listed on the 7th of December 2021. It's a house on 1,214 square metres, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, 2 cars. On the 7th of December, it was on at 1.2 million. On the 6th of March 2022, reduced to 999,000. And one more listed 300 days ago on the 25th of November. It's a house with 13 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms and no car space. It was on at just over $1,050,000 on the 22nd of April, and now it's on at $995,000 on the 11th of May. Now we'll go to postcode 4871, and I must tell you that I don't have sufficient data in my model here because the population is so low, so I'm not going to share any information from my model, but nevertheless we can look at the property listed 383 days ago on the 3rd of September 2021. It's a house on 607 squares, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 2 cars. On the 3rd of September last year, it was on at 1.4 million. On the 23rd of December 2021, its offers over 1 million, and it's still on. And another one in the same area, listed 476 days ago on the 2nd of June 21. It's a house on 589 squares, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, 2 cars. On the 3rd of June 21, it was on at 480,000. On the 17th of August 22, it was on at 440,000. Now we go to postcode 4873. Now this was listed 114 days ago on the 30th of May. It's a house on 4,513 squares, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, no car space. On the 13th of July 22, it was on at 799,000. On the 10th of August, it was reduced to $745,000. And if we look at that particular postcode, we can see that there's 2,700 households there. 36% own outright, 35% are borrowing, 27% are renting. Stress is at 30%. Rental stress is at 36%. Scenarios are that the best case could be a rise of 8% over the next 3 years, the base case a fall of 16%, the worst case a fall of 35%. In the census, 89% were reported as houses, 4.4% units, and 6.6% as other types of residential. Population ratio is 1.99%, and there were 15.8% of properties vacant, or 479 on census night. Gross investment returns 4.3%, net investment returns 0.1%. The average taxable income from the ATO for an individual is $62,800, and the average household income is $63,336. But the disposable monthly income is around $4,175, and that means that the typical borrower is paying about 41% of their income, $1,716 on the mortgage, and renting around $1,295,000 a month for 31% of income. Here's another one in the same area, listed 336 days ago on the 20th of October 2021. It's a house, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, 4 cars, on 1,012 square metres. On 21st of October 21, it was on at $549,000. On the 4th of February 2022, it was $485,000. Another one in the same postcode, listed 110 days ago, 3rd of June 2022. It's a house with 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and 5 cars. On the 14th of July, it was $1.3 million. On the 24th of August, it was $1.15 million. Now we'll go to postcode 4877. And this is Port Douglas. This is a house listed 29 days ago on the 23rd of August. On the 23rd of August, it was on at $1.55 million. On the 6th of September, it was reduced to $1.25 million. And looking at the data for Port Douglas, we can see that there are just over 2,000 households in this postcode. The proportion owning outright at 29%, 33% are borrowing, and 37% are renting. Just 13% in mortgage stress, but 40% of renters in rental stress, so obviously rent's a problem. And if you look at the scenarios, a possible rise of 10% over the next 3 years, base case is a fall of 14%, the worst case is a fall of 1/3. From a property profile perspective, 52% are houses, 19% are units, and 27.9% are other types of accommodation. Population ratio is 1.76, and on census night, 524 vacant properties were reported at 21%. Gross investment returns about 4.3%, net investment returns about 0.4%. And looking at the average taxable income from the ATO, around $58,600 per household, around $74,000 according to the census. Monthly disposable income around $4,667, and a typical borrower is paying about 42% or $1,963 now on their mortgage. Typical renter 37.4% or $1,745. Another one in the same postcode. This was listed 79 days ago. It's a house on 8,246 squares, 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 4 cars. And on the 14th of July, it was on at 1.5 million. Now on the 7th of September, it's on at 1.35 million. Now we go to postcode 4878, Yorkeys Knob, just north of Cairns, of course. And this property was listed 79 days ago on the 4th of July. It's a house, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, 2 cars on 791 squares. On the 16th of July, it was on at $549,000. Now on the 9th of September, $490,000. Offers over. And looking at this particular postcode, just over 6,000 households in the postcode, with 23.9% owning outright, 41% borrowing, 34% renting, and around 25% in mortgage stress and 45% in rental stress. Looking at these scenarios, best case is a rise of about 7% over the next 3 years, the base case a fall of 16%, and the worst case a fall of 36%. The census reported 74% houses, 8% units, and 17% other types. And the population ratio is 2.14%, and on census night, 535 properties were vacant, or 8.5%. Gross investment returns 4.4%, net investment returns 1%, and the average taxable income for an individual just over $71,000, the average household income just over $80,000, and the net disposable income is around $5,200, and a typical mortgage repayment is $1,950 or 36.9% of income. Typical rent about $1,794 or 33.9% of income. Now we'll go to 4879, Palm Cove, just up the post from Yorkeys Knob. And here, listed 49 days ago, it's a house on 1.248 squares, 3 beds, 2 baths, 2 cars. Offers over $999,000 on the 19th of August. On the 5th of September, reduced to $959,000. And looking at the data for this postcode, around 8,800 households, with 28% owned outright, 41% borrowing, and 30% renting. Mortgage stress is at 22%, rental stress is at 48%, and the overall financial stress metrics relatively low. From a scenario perspective, the best case will be a rise of about 7 or 8% over the next 3 years, a base case of fall of 16, or the worst case a fall of 35. On census night, 78% were reported as houses, 12.7% as units, and 9.1% other types of accommodation. Population ratio is 2.1%. And on census night, 13.2% or 1,264 properties were vacant. Gross investment returns 4.4%, net investment returns 1.1%. The ATO reported average taxable income at $76,341 on average for an individual. Per household, according to the census, $88,452. Looking at the disposable monthly income, around $5,649 a month. And a typical mortgage repayment is about $2,080 or 36.8%. And a typical rent at 35.3% of disposable income is $1,993. Now we'll go to 4880. This was listed 124 days ago on the 20th of May 2022. It's a house on 19,300 squares, 7 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 4 cars. On the 24th of May, it was on at $950,000. On the 24th of August, it was on at $890,000. And looking at this particular postcode, there's around 5,000 households, 38% own outright, 30% are borrowing, 31% are renting, and 26% in mortgage stress, 33% of renters in rental stress. And the scenarios are best case, close to 10% growth over the next 3 years, a fall of 14% base case, and a fall of 33% worst case. The census reported 89% were houses, 6.6% were units, and just 4% other types, and the population ratio was 2.29. On census night, 8.8% were vacant or 455 properties. Gross investment returns 4.2, net investment returns 0.8. Average taxable income was around $63,100, and the average household income is $67,800. Disposable monthly income is around $4,480, and that's 40% going to pay the typical mortgage at $1,800, or 31.1%, $1,395 on the rent. Here's another one in the same area. This is a house on land, 34.38 hectares, 5 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 2 cars. And it was passed in at auction 420 days ago. And 255 days ago, it was on at 1.7 million, reduced on the 1st of January 2022 to 1.6 million, and now it's on at 1.5 million. Now we'll go to postcode 4881. This one was a house, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 3 cars. Now on at $769,000. It was listed 135 days ago, and on the 17th of May this year, it was on at $800,000. Then on at $790,000, and now $769,000. And looking at the postcode, 1,800 households, 38.7% own outright, 41% are borrowing, 20% are renting. Not much mortgage stress or rental stress to talk about. The average growth over the next 3 years could be, best case, about 14%. The base case is a fall of 11%. The worst case is a fall of 30%. Census reports 91% of houses, 2.5% of units, and 6.4% of other types of residential accommodation. Population ratios 2.26% and 9.1%, or 173 properties were vacant on census night. Gross investment returns 4.9%, net investment returns 1.6%. Average taxable income around $70,000 for an individual and around $70,000 per household according to the census. The monthly disposal income is around $4,500, and the typical mortgage repayment is around $1,976 a month, which is 43.8%. Typical rent around 29.8% of $1,346. Another one in the same postcode, listed 139 days ago on the 5th of May 22. House on 3.66 hectares, 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 2 car. And on the 13th of July at 1.3 million. On the 22nd of July, reduced to 1.1 million. Off is over. Now we'll go to postcode 4883. And here, listed 137 days ago on the 7th of May 2022. It's a house. Again, agricultural, 42,600 square metres, 4 beds, 2 bath, and 6 cars. On the 20th of May, it was at 1.495 million. Now on the 17th of August, it's on at offers over 1.29995 million. And if we look at the particular postcode, around 3,700 households, 38% own outright, 26% borrowing, 35% are renting. Mortgage stress is reasonably high, but not over the critical threshold of 40. Best case scenario is a rise of 9% over 3 years, the base case a fall of 15%, and the worst case a fall of 33%. 83% are houses, according to the recent census, and 6% are units and 10% are other types of residential accommodation. Population ratio is 2.07, and on census night, 368 were vacant, 9.5%. Gross investment returns 4.4%, net investment returns 1.9%. Average taxable income is around $64,600. Average household income is $59,952. Disposable monthly income on average is around $3,851. And typical mortgage repayments around $1,600 or 42.6%. Typical rent $1,395 or 36.2%. And finally, one more, and again, this is a postcode where there is insufficient data on model to report the details, but this was listed 125 days ago on the 19th of May 2022. It's a house on just over 2,000 square metres, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, 1 car. On the 13th of July, it was on at $440,000. On the 9th of September, it was reduced to $398,000. So there you go, a bit of a rundown of Far North Queensland. I guess 3 points. One is we can see a number of properties being reduced. The overall values, of course, are a lot lower than many other parts of the country. That's a supply-demand issue, but also the fact that there is quite a lot of stuff around, particularly in some of those postcodes in and around Cairns. Now, ahead, of course, the scenarios will be determined a little bit by what happens with the broader economy, but I think as rates rise, we're going to see more pressure on property prices in this area. And the other point to make is that rents are still quite excessive here. There's been very strong growth, and that's putting a lot of pressure on the rental sector as well. Nevertheless, it's worth underscoring that the gross investment returns and net investment returns aren't that flash, actually, compared with some other parts of Queensland, particularly down towards Brisbane and the Sunshine Coast. Anyway, I hope you found that useful. And if you'd like to suggest other areas of Australia where you'd like us to do a similar piece of research, just put comments below. We've got quite a long queue now, but we will come back and do some more later. But I think the takeout, bottom line, is that property prices are on the slide in this area too. I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.